Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Secondary Heroes podcast. We're starting off 2022 by talking about the last show of 2021, which is Marvel's Hawkeye. This is your host, Trevor, and joining me as usual is...
Hey guys, it's Prague.
That's it?
That's it this week. Just the two of us.
Oh, but yeah, if you are wondering, Alex is taking a much deserved vacation, and so it's just going to be us two hot guys talking about Hawkeye.
Exactly. Nice. Nicely done, bro.
And we hope everyone had an enjoyable Christmas time holiday period and had a good new year. And now we're hoping that 2022 is better than 2021 or 2020. But again, we did have a bunch of Marvel TV shows to watch in 2021, so at least there's that. And again, the culmination was Hawkeye, which also is now a Christmas show because the entire thing is around Christmas time, and they went heavy with all of the Christmas aspects.
Very heavy. Lots of Christmas songs in every episode. Yeah. Which is fun, I guess. I mean, it made, aesthetically more pleasing than it probably would have been, maybe. I don't know. It was a choice.
It definitely was a choice. I mean, I don't know if it changes the interest level if this came out in July and there's no Christmas theming versus releasing it in December and having Christmas theming. I don't know if it changes the structure of the show, but
I don't know if it has much to do with the structure of the show. I do know that I kind of heard from various people that they were more excited about this when it was being announced because it was Christmas themed than if it wasn't. Like, because there's a lot of not everyone was a big Hawkeye fan, and I think the show was there to kind of boost him and his character and introduce the new character, and maybe adding the Christmas element brought in some people that were kind of on the fence, maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
And so, if you are new to the Secondary Heroes, we do start out with a spoiler-free portion where we kind of give our take of the entire show before we then offer a spoiler warning and then go episode by episode and analyze all of that's included. So with that, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hawkeye happened. Not much happened, but it happened, and now it's over. It was fine. I didn't hate it as much as I probably should have, but it was kind of boring overall for me. That's just me, though.
Yeah, so for my spoiler free, I feel like Marvel's kind of set it up that you have a higher standard of what to expect from them. And you just have to look at all 5 shows collectively. It's tough to separate them. If you separate Hawkeye and just take it standalone, I would say not that much happens just in the scope of the show. And the finale kind of, anything they built up, the finale kind of let off a lot of steam and it didn't really stick the landing at all. But when you do then take it in the construction of everything, and Spider-Man No Way Home comes out at the same kind of time period and just buries this completely. But even comparing it to what happened in WandaVision or what happens in Loki, it's on that Falcon and the Winter Soldier level where he's doing small scale stuff that Marvel's doing such big scale stuff. It's really tough to care unless they put in a lot of TLC to dialogue and character development, and I don't feel like they did.
No, and I think the other point that I was going to bring up today is that between these shows, it's kind of like you have a good one, a meh, a good one, a meh series. And I think that this and Falcon and the Winter Soldier both kind of suffer from the nothing is really at stake here because they're passing the baton to a new character. Loki kind of does that, but also doesn't. And WandaVision obviously doesn't. But for these two shows, since that's all there is the passing of a baton to the new, version of the character, of said title character. Yeah, the stakes just aren't really there. Both are going to survive, most likely. And they can't really throw too much at it. You can't go too big because you got to introduce this new character. So yeah, it kind of fell flat. I feel like both of them probably could have done better as films rather than TV shows, which is the opposite of what I usually say. I think it was stretched too thin. They could have maybe punched it better if it was in like a 2-hour movie or an hour and a half movie, even, honestly. I don't know. It could have been a fun, like John Hughes style, holiday movie and that would have been fun. But the other thing I want to mention before we dive into spoilers too is that if you're going to do this ground level type superhero stuff, anything's going to pale in comparison to like the big outer space, multidimensional beings, right? So you kind of have to make it really gritty and dark and bloody and adult, or else it's just going to fall flat. It's not going to measure up the same. That's why I think those Netflix Marvel shows did a better job of that. Like they knew these were street level villains and stuff that were going to pummel the good guys, and I felt like that didn't happen in this show.
It's really interesting to the one point about it should have been a movie, because as we get into this, I was going to bring up the idea of how something was a movie should have been a TV show. Right. But I can see how this as a TV show should have been. It's really interesting. And then also Alex, was able to watch Hawkeye, and all he said was that the final episode was a bit of a letdown. So he's kind of on par with what I was thinking, where I feel like they could have, they were building interesting aspects. There's some good fight sequences and, character points, but they just let it all kind of, it's like it was a river and then it gets to like a grate at the end and it kind of just trickles down and a lot of it's lost along the way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, good little moments here and there. Fun moments, funny moments, good action scenes, but they're like spread so thin. They almost kind of forget about them, because you're like going through different, set pieces that are like kind of pointless and boring for the most part, like almost filler for the episode. And it's like, oh, all right.
Forgettable, I think, is the biggest aspect, just because I finished this a few days after kind of the finale came out. Yeah. And I had to rewatch it just before this podcast because it's been like a week and I couldn't tell you anything that happened. Yeah. I was like, there was a bonus scene in this, right? At the end, there was a bonus scene and I couldn't think of it until I went back and looked.
Because it was kind of a non-bonus scene. So we won't spoil that yet, but yeah, there's our takes for you.
And so now Alex usually does socials, and I'll sum it up pretty simply. Go to crossthestreammedia.com to check out all of our latest episodes. You can also go to iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts to listen to us. You can leave a review on iTunes. And of course, you can follow us at Secondary Heroes on most of the popular forms of social media. And let's get to spoiler stuff.
Nice. Let's do this. Let's jump into Hawkeye.
So do you want to go episode by episode or just more kind of standout ideals? Like, oh, I like, Haley Steinfeld, or I liked this version of Jeremy Renner, what do you want to go with?
I don't want to, it could be kind of boring if we do the episode by episode. I think we can maybe dive into that in a bit here, but I think we should kind of start off with what kind of worked for us and what didn't. Because I do think that the first two episodes were okay. Like when I first watched the first two, I'm like, it's all right. I'm okay. I mean, I didn't hate it. I was like, fine. I like the second one, I think, better than the first, if I remember correctly. But I'm like, I kind of get it. I kind of was okay with it. But then, it kind of fell apart a bit after that.
For me. Yeah. So I think I try to kind of keep up to date with what people like, really like, what's memeing from the show, what people like. Oh, I loved this character in this. And it seems like Yelena was the biggest takeaway. So, spoiler, again, I said that already, but if you haven't seen Black Widow, this is also spoilers. From the Black Widow movie, they introduced Natasha's sister, who's Yelena, and she's played by Florence Pugh, and she makes an appearance in episodes 4, 5, and 6. And with that, everyone loves her. And I get that. Like, there's elements where she did outstanding. In episode 5, she just talks to Kate. And she breaks into her apartment and literally just talks to her while she makes dinner. And that was some of the best sequences of this entire show. But then there's the finale where she's talking to Hawkeye and she's like, there was no sense at all. Like, where she's trying to give reason to hating him. Because at the end of Black Widow, Julia Louis-Dreyfus tells, I know who killed your sister. And it was Clint. Clint killed your sister. Well, we know, having watched Avengers Endgame, that's not exactly how it went down. And so she's trying to grasp at straws to give reasons to hate Clint as she's literally fighting him. And she says like the stupid, idiotic things like, oh, you shouldn't have let her die, or you should have fought harder, because he says, oh, she sacrificed herself. Oh, you shouldn't have let her. Or I fought her and she bested me and killed herself. Oh, well, you should have fought better. I wouldn't have let her. It was just, I couldn't handle that entire sequence as well as she did leading up to that. That just derailed the character for me a lot.
It almost felt like they brought in a different writer for that scene. Like it was a completely different character in that moment. Like I don't know why that was.
Yeah.
Because I felt the same way. I felt like that whole scene was like, I don't get it. It felt like it was lacking any kind of punch.
Mhm.
I feel like it should have been more emotional or something. I don't know.
Because it could, like the very end where Yelena says, "I loved her so much," and then Clint says, "Me too." That was a good piece, kind of
Mhm.
as a send off, because the Black Widow movie isn't a send off for her character at all.
Right.
It's just a prequel. It shows you information of what happened between Civil War, and you're like, great, I didn't really need this, and it pretty much just sets up Yelena to be a new Black Widow. That's the only existence of that
Of
movie.
course.
And so to have her in this show and kind of connect that, building the next generation, and have really good elements of her, and then kind of drop the ball with her character, it's a disservice to her.
It really is. I mean, you could have had that whole scene be a fight, like as they're talking. They didn't have to like sit in there and like, stop and talk to each other. Like I think it would have been more interesting, if it were like she was really struggling, like she had no one, like she needed to blame somebody. So she
Mhm.
just would keep punching him until like he just bested her somehow or something, until she started crying or something. Like there's so many different ways you could have done that better. And yeah, it felt that whole last episode. That's my issue, is the whole last episode. It's not just that scene. It just like felt like all the plot points that were building up to the last episode kind of just fizzled. Like they're like, oh, like someone let the air out instead of
Mhm.
popping the balloon.
Yeah, like, I mean, they end up stop fighting by having that whistle, where it's like Katniss and
Yeah.
Rue from Hunger Games, where the
Right.
specific whistle. And I was like, is this Hunger Games? I never even remembered Natasha having a specific whistle, but even if she did,
Don't either. I have no idea.
that's going to
What it
stop them
was.
fighting cold. And
Ugh.
I think it would have been better, because when Clint and Natasha fight and for the Soul Stone, or to sacrifice for the Soul Stone, they both use their own kind of techniques to, get
Mm,
over the edge.
right.
And so I think that would be funner to do it with Yelena, and almost, kind of
Mirror
stumble
that.
into that way. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh well, didn't happen, unfortunately.
No.
Also, pour one out for Rue. But yeah, that
And
was my
then,
standout. Is Florence. Florence Pugh is obviously a standout for me because I
yeah.
love her so much,
Mhm.
and she's great as a character too. I mean, it's kind of sad when like probably my favorite character in the show was someone who is not the main characters.
Well, I mean, speaking
So
of that, right at the start of episode 5, we get her flashback during the blip, where she
yeah,
goes into the bathroom, and we get to see what happens
it's
when
fantastic.
the entire house changes, because 5 years have passed and it's a second for her, and that's a really
Yes.
interesting thing to see.
Yeah, you kind of wondered, like, were people like just in a void, in a vacuum? And that explains a lot of why they acted the way they did in Endgame. Like, everyone was like ready to go. I'm like, why are they ready to go? They've been gone for 5 years. Like, oh, for them, it's all been like 1 second. Like, it
Mhm.
really wasn't that big of a deal for
Nothing's
them.
really
They probably
changed at
just
all. Yeah.
flipped away and were like, oh, we're back. Cool. So that kind of helped. I really like that scene altogether. It was fun.
It's reminiscent of the Monica Rambeau scene from
Yeah.
WandaVision. It has a similar vibe, and it's just really interesting to see her go through it, because she's like trained as an assassin, and all of a sudden her
Right.
surroundings completely change. And the lady that she was with now has like 2 kids, and she's like, what are
Like,
you
what is
doing
happening?
here?
She's like domesticated and everything. Like, what is happening?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. That was fun. I enjoyed that scene a lot.
that was a really good
So
sequence.
yeah. The other thing that I liked, just since we're on this train, I liked all the different arrows. Like I think that's kind of what we were all hoping for. Is like we need trick arrows. Like
Mhm.
he's Hawkeye. He needs trick arrows. So I enjoyed that aspect of the show. Some were kind of too cartoony for me, but I did enjoy them at least. I like the Pym ones,
I
obviously.
was
So
gonna
those are
say,
really
do you have a
fun.
favorite arrow? Because mine's the Pym one.
Oh yeah.
Just to have that gigantic, like,
It just like
honestly,
came down like a giant shaft on top of them, like just pummeled them. It was great.
the only thing, it probably would have broke through the bridge.
Oh, for sure.
If an arrow just all of a sudden became like 300 foot tall, there's no way it's not gonna rip entirely through the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and as fun as that scene was, I did feel like I could tell that they were in like that green screen space. Like it didn't feel like they're on a bridge.
Mhm.
Um, I think we're just going to have to get used to that in a lot of shows going forward, not just Disney shows, but I think a lot of shows are going to do that because of COVID. They're just going to start filming stuff not on location, maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. So you're going to get a lot of those weird green screeny stuff.
It's sad because the lead up to that bridge sequence is one of the better car chases I've seen
Yeah,
in
it's
a
like they
TV
did a great
show.
job, and that's was
It
I think
was
that's kind of jarring
yeah,
to
it
transition to
definitely
that.
yeah, the transition is what like, if the entire car scene you could tell was, like, on a green screen backdrop, it
Yeah.
fits in, but to have that sudden change.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but that was a great, another great scene. Doing that whole kind of one take in the car. I'm
Mhm.
sure they had to do some kind of visual effects to meld some scenes together, but it was a lot of fun. Probably kind of trying to hide different cameras and stuff in that scene, but yeah, I
It was
enjoyed
one
it.
of their most impressive action sequence cinematographies, but also the first 2 episodes have some good fights with, what are they called? Tracksuit Mafia.
The
It's
tracksuit
pretty
mafia.
sequenced up well.
Yeah, yeah, they're fun. I liked them a lot. As I said, this first 2 episodes, I was like, okay, I can be okay with this show. I think wasn't quite like bored by it yet. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm on board. I'm getting used to these characters." It was really neat to see, her backstory in New York and to see the Belle of New York. I know there's some people that like complain about going back to that moment, but like I love that. I love seeing different points of view from that because they do that in comics a lot, and to see that on screen is like it was really neat to have that happen.
The very opening from the first Avengers film, I just like the devastation that you don't like. We get to see Tony saves the day, all the Avengers fight all these aliens,
Right.
yay! But
A lot of people
there's
died.
actual people who live in New
Yes.
York, and they're just living in their apartments, and the thing comes and crashes into their building. That building's
Yep.
not unoccupied.
Nope, as we find out. So
Yeah,
that was kind of fun. Guys, as soon as they said the date and it was New York, I'm like, oh, I bet we're gonna see the Belle in New York, and this is where she's gonna see Hawkeye, and she did. It was cool.
it's a good
I enjoyed
character
it.
development point,
Yeah, definitely.
especially for a new generation to be like, Marvel's progressing through the timeline, and literally the actions of things we have seen on film have created a next generation.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing that very well. Kevin Feige
Mhm.
really knows what he's doing. That's for sure. So I enjoyed that. And then, do you? So were you familiar at all with the Matt Fraction run in the comics? Like, I'm assuming you were probably aware of it, but do you know plot points or anything from it?
No. Mm.
Okay. So I'm wondering, did you figure that the mom was kind of suspect in the beginning, or did you not realize that until later? Or are you kind of like, maybe she is, maybe she
Oh,
isn't?
I thought she was suspect just because she's a that's who she is as an actress.
Okay. I was just
Everything I've
wondering. I
ever
don't know.
seen her in, that's who she is.
She plays it well. Yeah, I was just wondering if like people who hadn't read it, because I think they kind of played that up quite a bit, in my opinion, almost too much. To me, like it was kind of on the nose. Obviously the casting was, but just the way she was, she had the villain haircut and everything. I'm like, come on.
And then yeah,
We
they
knew you
try
were
to
no
pass
good.
the attention over to Jack, and Jack, he was fun. Like I
Yeah,
liked
it
his
was goofy
whole
fun.
sword fighting guy in the background of the finale. That was one of the better parts of the finale.
So great. Oh, it's my time. It's like I knew he was going to be the red herring. Like, well, obviously,
Yeah.
he is in the comics, but like, yeah, he's going to be the red herring, and he totally hammed it up, and it was a lot of fun. I really liked the scene where they're fencing each other in the main
Mhm.
hall, and then she does the whole, what does she say? She says something, or she goes to stab him or something without him noticing, and he, disarms her.
Disarms are real
That
easily,
was
yeah.
great. That was great because she knew. She's like, oh yeah, of course I knew.
Yep.
So that
He's
was
just
fun.
playing it being terrible.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed those characters. I do think that Haley Steinfeld was the right choice for the character. Thought she was kind of fun, pretty funny. I think she was. Now this is just me, and I've told this to other people, and I don't think other people agree with me. Maybe you will, but I thought she channeled Emma Stone at times, like her performance. Kind of had that feel to her because I've seen her in other things, and she doesn't usually act like this in other things. So it just felt to me like the way Emma Stone acts in comedies. I could be wrong.
I can
Could
see
be
that.
reaching.
For me, it was a little over the top on the
Like
like,
over
I
the top.
know
Yeah. Like
who
she's
Kate's
usually not
supposed
as
to
over the
be,
top as
but
that.
yeah, this character was specifically over the top, kinda on the annoying side, kinda grating at times, but
Hmm.
She like that's what she's supposed to act to do. It just
Of course. Yeah. She's
it
supposed
gets
to be the
to me.
fangirl. That's the whole point. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So hopefully after this she'll calm down a bit, not be quite as that. But I think that that's just going to be part of her personality, though. That kind of bubbly, weird, awkward character. That way she, works off of the, kind of stone face Yelena,
Yeah.
moving forward. So we'll see if they tone that down or not. But I agree. It was kind of grating at times, a little teeny boppy. Which is
Little
another thing
too
that I
much.
had with the show is that I felt like, and this is not necessarily a bad thing, maybe this is just a me thing, but I think that they were trying to make this more of like a kid or family friendly show versus like those Netflix shows, which were super dark and bloody and violent. Like it felt like that to me. It just felt like it was almost too family friendly.
I mean, the biggest juxtaposition of that is probably the other spoiler that Wilson
Mhm.
Fisk, Kingpin, Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin makes an appearance in Hawkeye, and just having that connection of his kind of brutalness in Daredevil versus how he
Mhm.
kind of is more like a caricature of himself in Hawkeye.
Well, that's a good way to put it. He was very much a caricature of himself. Like it felt like, yeah, that's him, but there's something not quite off. Like there's something a little more goofy about him. It's like when you take the villain and you put him in like in a cartoon version or something, like on, Nicktoons or something. I don't know. The Disney morning shows.
Or just like an Emperor Zurg type of bad guy.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. He would have not have done things the way he did them, in my opinion. He would
Yeah,
have
no.
let like henchmen do the dirty work. He would have, killed Eleanor right there. Like, yeah, he wouldn't have stood for any of that. He was definitely muted, which is unfortunate because I was really excited to see him back. I'm still excited. Like, hopefully, he'll be better in Echo, the new show coming to Disney Plus whenever that's going to happen. Hopefully, they don't follow the same kind of family friendly fare that this was with that show.
I know people were complaining about him wearing the Hawaiian shirt under the white suit, and oh, that's not what he wears. And then all the people bring up the comic where literally on the
Yeah,
cover of the comic, that's his outfit. But
right,
it's more than the outfit, it's more of how it just seems goofy. Like he gets run over by the car.
right.
I don't know why they did this weird over the like he was indestructible. It's one thing when Daredevil's like beating you and
Right.
you can withstand that. It's another when a car literally runs into you pretty much at full speed and you bounce off it like a little truck, like a little
Ragdoll,
kid's
right.
Ica truck just ran into your knee.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not like the way they portrayed him in the episode at all. And it had nothing to do
Yeah,
with the suit. I was fine with
no.
the suit. I don't care. I'm with you. I had a big problem with the way that they just kind of like I don't know, devalued his character.
Devalue is a good thing just because they built him up so much in Daredevil and Hawkeye is going to be on Daredevil's level. He's not going to be, he doesn't have Spider-Man abilities. He's not going to
Exactly.
be swinging through the streets ever. So you need
Yeah.
that really brutal, gritty thing. And Netflix showed how you can do it.
Yeah, I don't think Disney's gonna allow that. So
Yeah.
this is the first time I think I've seen a lot of blood in a show, like even though it was kind of kid friendly, so maybe that's gonna help move things in the right direction. We shall see. I don't know. Um, Anyways, do you want to go through some episodes here and
Well,
see how the show was? Unless
one
you have other
interesting
stuff.
thing about Kingpin is I like how they introduced at the end of episode 5, like they're hinting at there's this big bad guy, and then the Clint finally sees it on just like a security cam footage on the phone that they reveal it's actually Vincent. That's a fun reveal.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is though, at the start of episode 3, the first level bad guy in this episode is Maya, and during her backstory, she's at karate practice, and someone comes up and pinches her cheek, and he
Right.
has like a big intimidating figure, and he has a big long suit, and he chuckles, and I'm like, that's Vincent D'Onofrio. As soon as I heard, like, he has
Oh
a
yeah.
very distinctive voice and chuckle.
Yeah, I think everyone knew at that moment. It was like, ah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure him. I mean, who else is going to be that big too? And everything said "big guy" everywhere. I mean, it was kind of implied that it was going to be him. And they were going to recast him, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun. And now the timing of this was kind of weird too because they had Spider-Man: No Way Home come out, and of course you had the Charlie Cox appearance in that, which I think kind of overshadowed this episode, which came out the week after opening weekend. So
Or it might
it's
have
kind
been
of
the
like a
same
letdown.
time.
It was the same
Epi-
time, but it
yeah,
did
episode
come out the
5
week
might have come
after.
out. No, episode 5 where they actually reveal it might have been the same 17th.
Yeah, it might have been. I'm just saying, like him being on like actual in the last
Yeah,
episode, like actually
episode
showing up
6
on
was the
camera.
week after.
So
Yeah.
you're kind of like, all right. I mean, it's cool, but it was, we kind of got some big stuff happening in that movie, so that definitely overshadowed this episode, the final one.
And so do you think Kingpin got shot by Maya at the very end? When they don't show it, they just hear the gunshot and she literally has her gun to his head?
Yes and no. I don't want to
Like, they
spoil
left it
anything from the.
ambiguously on purpose, but she literally could
Let
have just
me.
shot him in the head.
I'll put it this way. He's fine. He survives in the comics. He's good. You're good, fam. Don't worry about it. He'll be back. Yeah, I know a lot of people are probably shocked. Like, what? Like, if you don't see a person die on camera,
I just felt like it was a waste. Why didn't they just have it end where he's gone from the toy store, where they go in and his body after being exploded is gone? I don't know why they needed that whole Maya sequence after that.
I think they wanted to set up that show with Echo, and in the show he's blinded in the show. So he will be most likely because of the comics he is. So I think they wanted to set him up as that in the show because it would have been harder for her to like shoot him at a point that would make sense story-wise anywhere else. I guess that's my only guess.
Rushed her
I don't know.
story completely.
They totally rushed her story.
Whoever the number 2 guy was, I don't know what his name was.
Jon Snow?
Yeah, he's knockoff Jon Snow. And all of a sudden Maya actually loved him. Like, they're fighting, and then it's revealed during the fight that she loved him this whole time. And then she's like, "Oh well, I gotta shoot you anyway." That was just the most rushed, probably, character interaction I've seen in any show ever.
Yeah, I
to go from "I love you," first I'm fighting you. How did you betray me? I actually love you. Well, you're only one-dimensional, so I'm gonna shoot and kill you because you only care about aspirations and you don't have any affection for me. It was such a quick whirlwind of emotion.
Yeah, it's kind of lame. I don't know. I'm not totally sold on her character, to be honest. I know a lot of people liked her. I'm okay. I don't know. I think if she were introduced in the Daredevil Netflix show, she probably would have been more brutal. And I feel like there's no brutality to her. She's just kind of like there, I'm not too sure what she uses to her advantage much, honestly. Like, it would have been nice to see, like, oh, she can, hear the sound vibrations and utilize them, against other people or whatever the case may be with her character. And I feel like that didn't happen as much for me.
Of that, in episode 1, we do get something that's long been in the comics, that Hawkeye is at least partially deaf or almost completely deaf. We've never referenced that ever in any of his appearances in any of the films. And right in the first episode of this series, they're like, "Oh, look, he's had a hearing aid this whole time."
Yeah, it's funny. These shows are really doing like the comics more justice. Like, I think I mentioned this before, where the movies were kind of like their own universe. Like, that was their own standalone non-comics universe, and now we're getting stuff from the comics being pulled in and put into the MCU now. So that's kind of neat. I liked seeing that for sure.
And then kind of piggybacked off of that is the whole Rogers musical, where that's where he is. They have a whole Steve Rogers musical. And my only takeaway from that is Disney should just pay the money and put this on Broadway. People would totally go and watch a Marvel's Avengers Broadway play.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the COVID variants and stuff, I think they could have done it like right now. It would have been a hit. So yeah, at some point they could. I don't see why not. I mean, if they can pull off that number, I'm sure they can write a pretty basic standard show based around it. Have that be the finale or something.
That was the whole bonus scene. In case you are watching episode 6 and you think there's more, it's literally the entire musical number of "I Can Do This All Day."
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a tie-in to No Way Home. Something like Spider-Man flying over, because he flies over during Christmas at the end of the movie. I'm like, he's gonna be there, and he never was.
Okay. That would have been really fun if just like an angle of it.
Yeah, or something, or maybe Daredevil, kind of shows up or something to help Eleanor or something. I don't know. Anything would have been nice.
And then, speaking of the mom, at the very end, she's being arrested, And she's like, "Is this what heroes do? They arrest their mom on Christmas?" And I'm like, "Yes, that is exactly what heroes do."
It's funny. I was saying the same thing to my screen. Yeah, like, yes. What? Who writes
What
these
kind of
lines?
question is?
I do think that they brought some of the writers from Falcon and the Winter Soldier to write this last episode because it was just like, oh, the dialogue was so
It's out of
bad.
place for the rest of the series.
Yeah, like really bad. I mean, the rest of the series wasn't like the greatest thing ever, but it wasn't this bad. Like the final episode.
Yeah, it's got somehow worse because
horrible.
like there's a lot of sequences. I was skimming over it to remind myself, and there's a lot of sequences where it's just two people on screen for like 10 or 15 minutes at a time in the first few episodes. So there's some like there's that sequence where Clint has his hearing aids broken and Kate helps him. His son calls and Kate
Right.
writes
That was a
down
good
the stuff,
scene,
and
right?
that's a really good connection between the two characters. It kind of helps him trust her more.
Exactly. Yeah, you have stuff like that, and then you have like the scene where he shoots the arrow at Jon Snow, and he says, "Nice shot." And he says, "No bleep." What? Like that was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in any Marvel anything. Like, okay, yep, they just gave up in the last episode, is my guess. At least the tree falling was a cool scene. That looked practical to me, so that was A for effort there, I guess.
That's fun because right now the 30 Rock Plaza is under construction.
Oh, is it?
So they didn't have any ice or tree this year.
Well, COVID. But so this would have been in the future, right? Because
this
is actually
2023.
Yeah. So yeah, in the future, maybe there was. It was kind of fun to see 30 Rock though in a Disney show. I enjoyed that.
And then also they mentioned going and viewing the new Statue of Liberty, which I was trying to seek. So Spider-Man and Hawkeye happened at the same time.
Roughly, right? Yeah.
Spider-Man destroyed the new Statue of Liberty pretty good. So is it still a potential tourist attraction for Clint to go see?
Like, yeah, did it happen? Like, was that scene that happens there? Did that happen after Christmas? And maybe the tree was still up?
No, it happens to happen before Christmas.
Does it? I don't know. I wasn't paying enough
or
attention.
Or at least the Spider-Man sequence, because that's like September, October, right? Because it takes him a while after everybody forgets Peter Parker.
That makes sense.
For him to go and create his new student stuff.
You're right. So maybe by that point they have, like, I don't know, cleaned up the statue or something.
Spider-Man wrecked it pretty good.
Yeah, maybe Spider-Man helped. He's like, here, sorry, let me flip that together for you real quick. I used some of my webbing. Yeah. Anyway. Well, we didn't get any tie-ins to that. It would have been fun too.
And so what did you think of the whole LARPing sequences?
I think it went on a little bit too long. Like, it was fine with it. Like, it was kind of funny in a way, like in the way that the Ren Fair was funny in Loki. But like that was just like a
Loki did it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and this did it like way too long.
It was a long piece, and then they brought those characters back.
Yeah,
3 different times later.
Yeah, all they needed was Grills, because that's all that's the only person in the comics who had more of an impact in the comics, in my opinion. And instead, they kind of diluted his character by bringing in all these other characters, and it just became like the goof troop. And yeah, I don't know, it's fine. Like, we already had that in Thor. Like, I don't know if we needed it again in this, but they're fine. I didn't hate them. It was just too much. It was like it just went on for too long. That's the thing. It felt like filler to me.
A lot, like, 6 episodes. It's a tough. 6 episodes. It seemed like it went really quick for Loki, and then you have Falcon and Winter Soldier and Hawkeye, and it feels like it was actually 20 episodes.
It's like, wait, this isn't over yet? Why isn't this over yet? Oh, okay. I guess we still have a few more episodes of Hawkeye left. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm glad I did not watch this week by week. It doesn't keep you with the intrigue going. Like, I waited until the last it was the week of the last episode, and then I watched them pretty much over to a 6-day period.
Yeah, and I watched them week to week, and yeah, it was. I would forget that the show exists sometimes in between episodes. I'm like, oh yeah, it's this Wednesday again. Shoot, okay, I'll watch. So yeah, it's fine. Whatever. I know a few people liked it. That's fine. I'm glad they got the suits from the comics as well, which is also fun. And it seems like that's kind of the thing that everyone's doing now. It's like they're doing the suits. Yeah, so that's fine. I liked it.
It's cool. It's a big change because like Scarlet Witch just hasn't had a suit. Hawkeye, they put in a suit for 2012, and now they
Yeah.
have a different idea. So to see his transition is pretty good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it was a good design. It was the David Aha design from the comic, which I really enjoy. It's nice and clean and modern looking. And it looks like an arrow too, but it's just kind of cool. It has that kind of modern motif to it. So A for that. But also a special shout out to Lucky the Pizza Dog. Always like when there's a cute pup. So
Well, the
that was
dog
fun.
was a definite standout.
Yeah, that was good. At least he didn't get hit by the car. So that was good.
Yeah.
So I was
In
a little
terms of
on edge.
smaller shout outs, it's definitely the dog, and then it's the old guy in the elevator when she's going up to
Oh yeah.
investigate. That old guy is like, he just acted that he was one of the definite standouts. He's like,
get away from me. Oh
nah,
God.
nah, I'm good. I'm gonna take these groceries home.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. That was some good good casting there for sure.
And it was a fun, like, you would think of like a lot of shows would have like a creepy old guy and a teenage girl, and you'd have the old guy like leering at her in the elevator. It's nice to
Right.
have him be like, whoa.
Yeah, no, you are the creep. Yeah, you get away from me. Nice little switcheroo there. That was kind of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was good. Well, I don't know if there's anything else good or bad about it. The plot line, I guess we could probably go into if we want to, because there was a plot involving a few characters. You have the revenge plot, right, of Echo. Like that's just her motive. She has to go after Ronan. And then you have the plot of how Kate gets involved with the tracksuit mafia. And then
by
Clint,
getting the Ronin suit to begin with.
Right, to get the Ronin suit to begin with, which ties in the whole bringing in Echo into the fold, which brings in, of course, Kate and her mom, because her mom is tied to Kingpin. And then, of course, you have the watch, which we find out isn't really important to anybody except for Linda Cardellini's character. So we all thought it was going to be something else.
Yeah, and so that watch shows that she's part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And in doing so, it's funny because in Age of Ultron, they go and visit Hawkeye's house, and Tony's like, there's no way she's not an agent. It's just a throwaway line. And now, all these years later,
like, there's no
exactly
way.
what
Come
it
on.
is.
So that's kind of cool. Yeah, it seems like she might be Mockingbird, which, if that is the case, that's some interesting recasting, because there was a Mockingbird in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I guess that actress is not coming back to the MCU, so now it's Linda, which is fine by me. I don't really care either way. Some people care. I don't.
Some people like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. I was okay with it in the beginning, and it kind of fell apart for me. But anyway, this kind of felt like that at times. This show a little bit.
Yeah,
that's fine. Whatever. Yeah, it was a little more cutesy, family friendly than what I would like for the show. But plot wise, that was the plot for this. That was what we were dealing with. We didn't get the dad at all. Like, the dad actually dies in the first episode. He's actually a villain in the comics. So we find out he is a villain at the end. Like, he was working for Kingpin, but we never get to see him be a villain or do any of that stuff. So that's what kind of propels her to protect her family, which is all fine and good. Like, I had no issues with like her wanting to become an archer or anything. It all kind of made sense to me. She saw Hawkeye, she wants to become Hawkeye. As far as the mom, I don't know. It felt like she was too villainy for her performance. Like, it would have been more interesting if she were like a little bit more reluctantly
more gray.
This person. Yeah, more gray. Like, it felt like she was like really trying to be too sus about the whole thing. This just didn't quite work for me. Would have like upped the stakes more at the end too. Like, if we really liked her or something, and she was with Kingpin and like pleading with him or something, like, would have made it more interesting. Or maybe have like, had her killed off or something. I don't know. I know they probably want to keep her character around, but like, yeah, it would have been more interesting if like the Kingpin had actually killed her, thrown her off the bridge. Like, but what if he like did the whole Gwen Stacy thing? It was like on top of a building or a bridge or something, and said, "Oh well, I can solve that issue," and throws her off, and Kate's unable to save her in time or something. I don't know. A lot more could have been done to raise the stakes in this show, and just did not happen.
Yeah, the tracksuit mafia felt like jokes.
Yeah, they're just jokes.
Whenever you have masked people that are in these, like, the fight sequences were better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it still had the countless nameless masked
boring.
villains.
Yeah,
Like when
who
they're
cares?
on the ice at the end, they must shoot arrows at a couple hundred people. I
Yeah,
don't
there's a
know
ton of them, right?
where they got extra numbers for their tracksuit mob. Like they had that whole warehouse. There was no way there was that many. I don't know where they got reinforcements from
Yeah,
episode 3 to
wasn't
episode 6.
I think there was like 5 or 6 of them originally, but then by the end there was like 30, I guess, something like that.
Yeah,
Don't
they
know.
just keep, it was excessive at the end, like because they had no threat at all. So it was just them skating around on the ice doing like
Looney
arrow
Tunes stuff.
poses. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, man. I was disappointed in that last episode. It's frustrating. I mean, there's some funny lines, but like you didn't need them to be so goofy that they were slapsticky almost.
Yep. It was almost Keystone Cops were Russian.
Keystone Cops, yes. That's a good point. That's what it was like. Definitely cheapens it. Yeah.
And so with the Ronin suit, was it at Avengers Tower or was it at Avengers Campus?
I'm pretty sure they used the term Avengers Compound.
Yeah, the compound is the one where Endgame
it got blown
happens,
up,
right?
So yeah, it would have blown up. Pieces probably would have flown everywhere.
Yeah, but how is that suit like literally there's dirt and that's it. I don't know how any suit survived that. Like Thanos comes up through the building and explodes it and then sends missiles down at it. And they specifically made it all dirt because it's really easy to CGI it. So that way it's all specifically dirt. I don't know how anybody's excavating a suit. Like maybe the watch survives because it's made out of metal and you do some archaeology dig. But Ronin's suit, fully intact.
Yeah, I know. Maybe it was like some special kind of armor. You know, the Wakandans maybe made it for him. I don't know. I don't know.
And no Avengers went and cleaned up that sequence, huh?
No, like, let someone else do it. Yeah, that's not us. That's like Damage Incorporated. We'll let them take care of that stuff. It's fine. It's not us. We're good.
Too busy. That was the fun kind of sequence of the whole events are predicated on the idea that these things survived. And no one from the Avengers cared to recover these things. Like, why wouldn't Hawkeye care about it in the beginning?
Yeah, you would think that would be important to him, right? To find it. Like, I want to make sure no one finds this and tracks it back to me and my family.
Yeah. Since that was his whole motive for this entire episode, to not just fly back with his family and celebrate Christmas.
Maybe he assumed
some work earlier.
Yeah, maybe he assumed it like got shredded and destroyed, so he didn't look for it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Plot holes. Yeah.
And then the very end of the show, Kate's trying to come up with a name, and throws out all these different ones, and then then Clint's like, "Actually, I have an idea," and then they throw the title logo on there. Done. Are we going to see Clint again?
My guess is no, and if we do, it might just be like in cameos here and there, like he's the guy at home that she comes to visit sometimes or something. Maybe I don't know, maybe not, but that would be my guess. That was kind of like his send off.
Like I thought it was a send off too, because that gets into the whole kind of thing I referenced at the start, is that idea of a movie versus a TV show. And with Black Widow, Natasha, fans of Black Widow wanted a proper send off, and they didn't provide that with that Black Widow movie. That made sense before the pandemic and before all of these Disney Plus shows. This is what we're doing. Marvel has a different idea of kind of storytelling now. Movies have to be big events. You know, it needs to be Spider-Man or Doctor Strange or Thor. It's not going to be some low-level street type of people. That's what we have Disney Plus for. And so to have Natasha not get that proper send-off, and essentially it's just an introduction of Yelena, that feels like that should have been a TV show of showing, you know, her different kind of missions and having people actually grieve for her. Have a whole thing of how Clint and Yelena actually are grieving for Natasha.
Yeah, that would have been a lot of fun, actually. Like they could have had that, and then you could have introduced Kate at the end of that too. Like you're already introducing Yelena, and then by the end, somehow Kate gets involved, and they have like a spat, you know, Yelena and her, and that's when they form their like little love-hate bond. So, yeah, I agree.
Hawkeye, I think, would have been better as a movie just because there were so many filler sequences. Like This had even less stakes than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I mean, Hawkeye at least used arrows to get rid of everybody, and he didn't just give a speech to Kingpin or something. So
Right.
he at least had that going for him. But that's about the only thing that I could say was better.
Yeah, and I think in a movie too, you could have had like more locations. You know, they could have been on location more, done bigger action scenes, which would have been a lot more fun. But they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yeah, it would have been punchier. Just would have been a fun movie. It would have been a fun, quick movie. You could have had some grittier stuff, but also light-hearted stuff. I mean, you know, I feel like that works better in a shorter format than a long format.
Yeah. I feel like you need to develop, because Clint's doesn't change at all. And honestly,
Yeah.
Kate doesn't change that much either. Like, she gains Clint's trust, but I don't know as a character if she showed any growth or development of meeting and interacting with anybody.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what, like, because she went into this wanting to, you know, kind of fight crime. Like that was her thing. She was fighting these guys. She can do it. She's tough. She knows what's at stake. She finds out what's at stake, you know, at the end, but it doesn't feel like it changed her much. She just kind of went like, "Yes, Mom, that's what heroes do."
At the very start, she gets the arrow and she takes down the bell at her school and she makes a mistake. And then she makes a mistake by getting the Ronin suit and putting it on. And then she fights guys for a while. She meets her hero. Her hero trusts her. And then at the very end, she takes down the tree, just like she took down the bell tower. And it doesn't seem like she learned or changed at all.
No idea. She didn't learn any new tricks that I can think of either, except for sliding down the building, maybe from Yelena. I don't know.
Did she learn how to make the trick arrows, or was she just there when Hawkeye made them?
No, I think she was learning as he was going.
Okay.
I would assume that whole montage.
Well, I guess
like
she did learn how to
learning.
do that coin flip thing, which somehow
That too. All
ended
right.
up saving the day to defeat Kingpin. Just coin flip the arrows that are scattered on the ground after he cracked them in half. That coin flip thing, it just irritated me. I just didn't care about the CGI aspect of it and how it was supposed to. No.
It was bad. That was some bad CGI. Slow motion, like CGI buttons and stuff. No, I'm good. Thanks.
I could have gone without that. Especially for it to be the climactic way that Kate gets rid of Kingpin.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure that was his cufflinks, which are really important to him. So I don't know how I feel about that either.
And Kate, again, she's not like Spider-Man. He can take a hell of a beating. Like, he can literally broken through floors of an apartment complex and he'll make it through. Kingpin, when he threw her across the toy store or picked her up and kind of body slammed her, she's dead.
Yeah,
she's at least like, broken back.
Hey guys, I'm fine. Like, I was like,
they gave her like a little cut on the lip.
Yeah, he ended.
It's one thing for Kingpin to survive stuff. It's quite another for Kate to survive anything.
And that's the other thing about this not being gritty, you know, like when he fights Daredevil, like Daredevil's on the floor, like bleeding out of his mouth, like in pain, like holding himself, he's fighting, like holding his ribs and stuff. And Kate's over here like, yay. Like, no.
I thought she was going to do like a somersault into kicking him in the face.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. This is weird, man. I know we're harping on this last episode quite a bit, but
it was just so bad. And it's the worst. You can't have your last episode be the worst because that's the taste that you leave with people.
Yeah, unfortunately. I don't know. I know a lot of people did enjoy it, but it was just
that's what matters. If you enjoyed it, by all means. But for me, I hold Marvel to a higher standard because they've proven it.
Yeah,
I'm not randomly being like,
know.
Oh, Marvel should do better.
Right. No, we know they can. They've proven it over and over again. We just watched, Spider-Man. We know they can do it. So, come on.
And so with that, since 2021 has come to an end, let's look at all 5 Marvel shows for the year and rank them. I have an idea that Hawkeye's not going to be at the top, but we'll see.
But what's the 5th one? Hawkeye, Loki.
So What If is the non-live action Marvel.
Wow, I totally forgot What If existed. Oops, I wonder where that's going to be on my list. Ranking. Well,
you can start from the bottom.
Easy. I think mine will be pretty easy. I almost want to say, no, I'm going to put Falcon and the Winter Soldier at the bottom because I abhor that show. Like, there are things I get that they did well, but as a show overall, it failed to hit the mark. It was uneven, messy, and unfortunate too, because you have one of the more important characters moving forward, a leader of the team, and he was given such a disservice with bad writing. So you have that at the bottom, and then What If, just because I forgot it. I mean, it's some fun stories in there for sure that I really enjoyed, but I'm going to enjoy them more in live action coming up in the new Multiverse of Madness. So I'm going to put that as second. And then we have 3, 4, 5. So third would be then Hawkeye. Kind of the middle of the ground. Wasn't the worst, wasn't the best. Fun to watch, but ultimately boring at times. And then the top 2 is tough because I love both shows so much, but I think everyone knows my favorite is WandaVision, even though I think Loki is the better of the 2 shows. Overall, like for like the whole arc of it, I do think WandaVision was stronger its first 4 or 5 episodes or so. So I'm gonna go with that though. WandaVision's my top with Loki, kind of almost sharing the number 1 spot with her.
Yeah, I would say I'm not too far off. I agree with Falcon and the Winter Soldier at the bottom, just because I felt like Clint and Kate had a good rapport. It wasn't the best,
right? Better
but
rapport than
they had a good
other 2.
on-screen dynamic. And the reason Falcon and the Winter Soldier was going to be made is because Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan had such a good rapport. That's why we're making this, because they're just so good. They have just chemistry. And I felt like Clint and Kate had better chemistry, and they've never worked together before. And I also feel like Kate and Yelena are going to have better chemistry just from that one conversation in her apartment than anything in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, agreed.
But I would put Hawkeye 4 just because that last episode just...
Yeah, that's fair.
It felt just like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I couldn't distinguish it at all. And What If? I like What If because I like animated shows. There's a reason I like Clone Wars and Rebels in the Star Wars universe. What If kind of is the same idea. There's a lot of stories they're never going to tell in live action. Like, there's elements we're going to see, but there's just a lot of smaller stories they're never going to do. So it was fun to see that. But it's still 3 because WandaVision and Loki are a class of their own for releases this year. And Loki's definitely my favorite show of 2021, so it's easy to say it's the best Marvel show. And I think the way I cut it is Loki's 6 episodes, WandaVision's 9 episodes. Mm-hmm. And I feel like 8 and 9 of WandaVision are the weakest points of that series. And so if you have more shows and those more shows are the worst parts, I feel like Loki could have been, say it was 8 episodes, but there was 2 terrible episodes. It would jade your kind of view of Loki.
Of course. So I think WandaVision could have been shorter, like at least by an episode or 2.
Yeah, just that whole end sequence with that red CGI thing where they're both floating around. That's the last lingering memory. Like, all the awesome, promising aspects of the decade shifts, I just forget about. And when they say WandaVision, I can just picture that. Them both
the CGI battle
up with that red background. And then I watched the making of WandaVision, and Elizabeth Olsen is like, "Oh, I think our characters were strapped up and on, flying around more than any other thing Marvel's done." And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this episode. I'm done with you talking about your show and how great it is. Please do not say that when literally there are other characters that fly around constantly.
Touche.
I know. Loki, I feel like Loki was just so much memorable aspects of it, just like Miss Minutes or Alligator Loki. They're just side things that don't really have too great of an impact, but they're still super memorable. I don't feel like WandaVision had like, oh, that crane that was supposedly Mephisto, but it actually wasn't.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So I'll apologize that for a while, I'm sure.
But yeah, I'm just reminiscing about it. I kind of feel like I need to rewatch Loki, especially because... So the fun thing is with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, the best aspect is when Doctor Strange walks up to Wanda and he's like, "I don't want to talk about Westview." And so they just throw that entire series in the garbage just in one line right there.
So yeah, I'm not here for that. Let's just continue on. Oh, all right.
That kind of hurts WandaVision too. And we still haven't got Ant-Man in the realm of Quantumania. So we don't know how much Kang is going to be repurposed. His introduction is going to be repurposed in Ant-Man versus how it's introduced in Loki. Like, if they go and kind of explain it again, it kind of diminishes what Loki did.
Yeah, it really does. We'll see. Yeah, so maybe he runs up sees him and they don't explain him at all. He's just like this force of nature that comes in, and I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
But nice. There's our list. What
And
do
that's
you all
just
think?
for the TV shows. I'm pretty sure you think. Do you think? Did you watch Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals?
What was the last one? Did you say Ninja Turtles?
Just Eternals.
I'm like, I think you said Ninja Turtles. I watched Black Widow and I watched Shang-Chi, but I have not seen Eternals.
Okay, Eternals does come to Disney Plus on January 12th, and I will probably watch it at that point.
Yeah, at that point I'll probably watch it, maybe, if I'm forced to.
But where would you put Spider-Man? Would you put any of the movies but ahead of WandaVision or Loki besides Spider-Man?
I'd be tempted to do Shang-Chi just because I love that film so much. I've watched it 3 times, which is pretty ridiculous. Like, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. Like, it's nonstop fun. Like, the whole damn movie is fun. Which is what a comic book movie should be. So it would probably sit there. I would probably put it like with like WandaVision and Loki. I think it's in that realm for me.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Black Widow had, scenes that were really good, but overall it kind of was just meh.
Well, the tough part about Black Widow is I went into it expecting a good action movie. And I was like, the dialogue's probably going to be subpar and all that stuff. But I somehow left being like, that was some really good dialogue and character interactions. But the action was just so CGI heavy. That whole helicopter sequence or her leaving the plane and all the wreckage and stuff. I was like, I've seen Tony Stark fly in an armored suit that looks better than Black Widow flying a helicopter. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it either. I'm the same way. Everything else is good. It was flip-flopped, so it was fine. Like, it was probably right below like the Loki WandaVision Shang-Chi, I guess. It was worth watching. Like, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it. I was like, this is fine.
They flip-flopped my expectations.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than I expected. I was expecting to hate it. So I was like, all right. I didn't hate it. Having, Florence Pugh in there really helped a lot for me.
Well, I hated what they did with Taskmaster. That was my biggest
that was lame
service of that whole movie.
I don't think anyone liked it.
Yeah.
To be honest. Unfortunately. Could have been used so much better, but wasted. Oh well.
Would you put Spider-Man above everything?
Oh yeah.
Or would
probably.
you? Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, though, I think in the long run, I have a real personal attachment to WandaVision because I grew up with those shows. I love those old shows so much that I think that what Matt Shakman did as a director, directing those episodes, like to make them look and feel just like those shows, is remarkable to me. And the whole like Twilight Zone aspect of it all on top of that was really fun. And then for her to finally become the Scarlet Witch, which is one of my favorite comic book characters, like it's more of a personal thing, I think, for me. And I am disappointed that it kind of fell flat at the end with that last episode. So that was a bummer. So that will still probably, sit kind of at the top in the long run, even though I think that, that Spider-Man movie was just so good. So
I mean, the thing about the Spider-Man movie, like Spider-Man's always been my favorite superhero.
Oh yeah, it's easy. For
like
sure.
I luckily have that whole inclusiveness or being represented on screen and stuff. That's just something I'm blessed with naturally. No, I know it's terrible, but it is what it is. And I've always identified with Peter Parker, and just watching the Spider-Man movies from 2001 onwards and then seeing it all culminated in 2021, perfection. Just to have your favorite character, seeing your story rebooted 3 different times and somehow finalizing 3 trilogies in one movie, that's just expertise.
It's great writing. It's good stuff.
And so to all the people asking for the Amazing Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 4 with Tobey Maguire, they wrapped up those storylines.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't think we should. Like, I think they did. They wrapped them up. Like, and they might. Like, they might do the money grab stuff, but I hope they don't, because I do feel like we got those conclusions. And it was nice. It was a nice. Don't ruin that. Don't ruin a good thing.
Give us closure.
Yeah, it was nice. So we'll see where that goes.
So that's Marvel in 2021, and 2022 should be even bigger with when you see Doctor Strange, Thor, and Black Panther come in, and that doesn't even count all the Disney Plus shows like Miss Marvel and Moon Knight and She-Hulk and all that stuff. This is a really big year for Marvel.
It's gonna be a weird year too. This is a lot of weird shows, and a lot of weird movies. This is the weird side of Marvel. I hope you guys are ready.
Yeah, just you think that Multiverse of Madness is a weird thing. Just what they're gonna like. Yeah.
We'll see what happens. This will be fun.
Okay, everyone. So I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, but hopefully Alex is back. And until then, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, Prague out.